If you're moving out of Silicon Valley and you're considering Dublin and Pleasanton, while they might look close on the map, they are not the same. One feels more established with a charming downtown and is definitely more walkable. The other feels newer, faster growing, and more convenient. So if you're trying to decide where to move and you currently work in or around Silicon Valley, this video is here to help you choose what city is right for you. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the comparison between what it's like to live in Pleasanton and in Dublin for those of you who are considering a move out of Silicon Valley. We'll get into the true pros and cons of each city and what it's really like to live here. We'll talk about everything from your commute, what the downtowns feel like, how walkable each city is, the restaurants, schools, and neighborhoods, plus future developments, the overall vibe, and much, much more. So be sure to watch all the way to the end so that you can choose which city is truly right for you. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jen from the Jen Collins Group, and I help people buy and sell homes and figure out where they really want to live, here in the Tri-Valley and anywhere in the East Bay. Most of the people that we work with are either relocating, upsizing, or downsizing, or just trying to make a smart move without regretting it later. And that's exactly what this channel is here for. A lot of the people that we're talking to who are relocating from the Silicon Valley to the Tri-Valley know they're going to be getting a bigger house for less money here in the Tri-Valley compared to what they're used to in the Silicon Valley. The big question that they're asking, though, is what is the lifestyle really going to be like once we move there? Because here's the mistake that people often make. They think Dublin and Pleasanton are very similar, when they're not. Yes, they are located next to each other, and they can work very well for people who commute to and from Silicon Valley. But the reason that you would choose Pleasanton is very different than the reason that you might choose Dublin. And my goal is that by the end of this video, you'll know with confidence which city will suit your needs better. Let's start with the biggest difference between the two cities, and it's really a feeling. Pleasanton feels more settled and grounded. Dublin feels more vibrant and is still growing. Pleasanton is the city that people often choose when they want a more classic, small-town feel, yet still have a more upgraded suburban experience. It has a true historic downtown, not just a collection of shopping centers. And the downtown area features a ton of community events that help shape the community identity as that small town feel. It's described as a historic district with chef-driven restaurants, independent shops, and more than 550 businesses. Downtown Pleasanton is so classic that its main street is literally called Main Street, and it's very pedestrian friendly and lined with mature trees. Dublin, on the other hand, feels newer, is definitely more development driven, and much more transit-oriented. The city's website actually describes it as undergoing a transformation, with higher density mixed-use growth tied to the Dublin-Pleasanton BART station, and also includes a plan to create a more pedestrian-friendly city center. So right away, the question becomes not just which city is better. The question becomes, do you want something that feels already more established and complete, or do you want something newer that feels more convenient in some ways, and that is still actively growing? In general, Silicon Valley buyers who choose Pleasanton tend to be buying for lifestyle first. They want a stronger sense of place, a walkable downtown, a more traditional suburban feel, and they want something that feels less like an extension of work life and more like a retreat from work into your life. Silicon Valley buyers, on the other hand, who choose Dublin, tend to be looking for more efficiency first. They enjoy newer communities. They tend to want newer communities and don't mind condos and townhomes. They want convenient access to BART and major freeways. Now, this doesn't mean that Pleasanton is bad for commuters or that Dublin has no character. It just means that the emotional reason that people tend to fall in love with either city tends to be different. Pleasanton tends to win hearts first, while Dublin tends to win the math first. Now let's talk about the downtown, because that's where the difference really is the most obvious. Pleasanton wins downtown. Most definitely. Downtown Pleasanton is one of the biggest reasons that people choose Pleasanton. There are lots of restaurants to choose from, many with outdoor dining options, tons of boutiques to shop at, and a year-round farmers market, plus the community events and the pedestrian-friendly atmosphere I described earlier. So if your must-have list includes, hey, let's take a walk to dinner, or a Saturday morning stroll to a coffee shop and farmers market, or even grabbing quick drinks with friends on a Friday night, then Pleasanton is definitely the winner. Now let's compare that with Dublin. Dublin does have a downtown plan. The city has been very explicit that it does want to create a more vibrant, mixed-use downtown, including a town square, a more connected street grid, and a more pedestrian-friendly environment. The city's specific plan describes the goal as a pedestrian-friendly mixed-use center for shopping, dining, entertaining, working, and of course, living. But everyone acknowledges that the city is still dominated by big block retailers, busy roads, and the need to drive. Some people even say that what the city lacks is a true downtown experience, and that's a huge distinction when compared to Pleasanton. In terms of restaurants, the city has more places to go than many people realize. It's also home to a broad range of ethnic foods, everything from Afghani to Vietnamese. But if we're being honest, Dublin today has much more sprawl than one cohesive, charming, and strollable downtown area. If downtown lifestyle matters a lot to you, Pleasanton is the winner today, but we'll see what Dublin offers in the future. A lot of relocation videos say that a place is walkable, when really it might not be so. Plus, walkability depends a lot on the person who's walking. What's walkable to you might not be walkable to someone else. So let's dig in a little bit more. Pleasanton is selectively walkable. If you happen to live near downtown, absolutely, the walkability is real. The tree-lined streets, the historic shops, the restaurants, and community events, the walkability is an actual everyday lifestyle feature. But if you live in some of the surrounding suburbs, the walkability to downtown isn't quite the same. On the other hand, in many of the suburbs, you'll find tree-lined streets and wide sidewalks, so you can stroll through the neighborhoods very easily. Dublin, on the other hand, is selectively walkable in a more practical way. Depending on the neighborhood, you might be close to BART or other transit options. If we're being honest though, most of the time in Dublin, you'll be getting in your car to go to shops, restaurants, and retail. Now let's talk about the commute. If you're working 5 days a week in Silicon Valley during traditional office hours, neither of these cities will have what I would call an easy commute. And this tends to be a big mindset shift for buyers looking in these areas from Silicon Valley, though they usually decide to make the move because they've determined that the trade-off of time and what they can purchase here as a home is worth it. Both cities have very easy access to I-580 and I-680, but most of Dublin tends to have better access to BART. Dublin's downtown and development strategy are tied to those transportation connections, while Pleasanton often feels more lifestyle-centered, especially as you get into some of the deeper residential neighborhoods. Both cities are currently anchored by the Dublin-Pleasanton and West Dublin-Pleasanton BART stations, though as of today, in March of 2026, there is risk of some BART stations closing, and that may have an impact in the future. So which city is better for the commuter? Again, it depends. If you're looking to use public transportation, Dublin has a slight edge here. But if you're only commuting to Silicon Valley a few days a week and you have flexibility on when you can go, both cities tend to be pretty equal. If you're still working in the office in Silicon Valley 4 or 5 days a week, I would take a long, hard look at the commute before deciding to move to either city. And of course, if you're hybrid or mostly remote, the commute trade-off for what you get in housing becomes a much more compelling argument. Now let's talk about the one thing that I mentioned earlier that you might not have caught and that many people aren't aware of yet. There is a possibility that the Tri-Valley could lose BART stations under BART's current doomsday budget scenarios. As of February 2026, BART's contingency discussions included possible station closures if the 2026 planned funding measure fails. That means that the West Dublin Pleasanton BART station could close as early as January 2027. And there's a further potential for the Dublin Pleasanton station to close as well. This worst case scenario would cut off the Tri-Valley completely from BART. And while BART is facing major fiscal issues, the current board members did push back on this proposal. So while these closures aren't imminent, there is a risk. So why does this matter for comparison? Dublin gets a bit of its identity and convenience premium because of its access to BART. Housing is built near the BART stations, which makes accessibility extremely easy. Pleasanton benefits from the access to BART as well, though its residents tend to be less dependent on whether BART exists in its current form today. So I believe if the BART stations were in fact closed, it would have a bigger impact on Dublin than it would on Pleasanton. Now that doesn't mean don't buy in Dublin. It just means be aware of what you're potentially buying into. Now in terms of new development, which city is changing more? This is where Dublin gets really interesting. Dublin is definitely changing faster and with more visibility than Pleasanton. The city's downtown Dublin-specific plan still shows about 2,000 units of housing to be built and another 3,000 units in eastern Dublin. That's a meaningful amount of housing still left in the pipeline to be developed. On top of that, the vision of downtown Dublin's development continues to expand. The city is planning for over 275,000 square feet of commercial and retail space, plus another 535,000 square feet for life science users, plus another proposal near Tassajara, which will include 500 units of housing and over 33,000 square feet of commercial and retail space. So Dublin is betting on growth. More housing, more mixed use, more urbanization, with a modern, transit-oriented identity. Now compare that with Pleasanton. Pleasanton is changing too, though in a much more measured way. The city's long-range plan is focused on 2 areas: the former Stone Ridge Mall, which may in the future include mixed-use residential and retail space, and the BART concept plan for the Eastern Station parking lots, which is also evaluating housing while determining the impact on parking. On top of that, there are a number of sites that Pleasanton is considering rezoning for housing. So Pleasanton's story is more about targeting change in specific areas: the former Stone Ridge Mall, the BART land, and a few selected commercial areas. This matters because buyers often say that they want a city that's going to retain its original character. If that's you, choosing Pleasanton might feel safer than Dublin. But if you're excited about a city that's becoming denser, more mixed use, and dynamic, then Dublin is the choice for you. Next up, let's talk about food and the restaurant scene. This isn't about how many restaurants each city has. It's about the experience of going out to those restaurants. Pleasanton's restaurant scene definitely feels more destination-oriented and more atmospheric. Dining at a local restaurant at one of the outdoor patios on a hot summer night definitely is a big part of the experience. That matters because if you're moving from Silicon Valley, some of the questions you might be asking are, what do Friday nights look like? How am I going to spend my Saturday morning? Can we actually enjoy where we live? And Pleasanton answers that question very well. And Dublin has convenient everyday dining while also offering a broad range of options. So for dining, your trade-off is going to be Pleasanton gives you a more place-based dining experience, while Dublin offers a stronger variety and more convenience. For families considering schools, both cities are on short list for very good reason. Pleasanton Unified and Dublin Unified are both major districts that have the kind of regional reputation that keeps these cities in constant demand with family buyers. Pleasanton Unified School District has about 14,000 students, while Dublin Unified has about 13,000 students. And Dublin Unified continues to grow with the newest high school in the region just completing construction, Emerald High School. So how do you choose between the two? Pleasanton often feels stronger for the buyer who wants a more established family community within the schools, while Dublin tends to be the stronger choice for families who want newer homes and newer schools. Either way, both cities are great options for schools. Often as clients are moving from Silicon Valley, they're looking for an upgrade. So which city feels more like an upgrade from Silicon Valley? And this is where the answer gets deeply personal. For a lot of Silicon Valley buyers, Pleasanton tends to feel more like an upgrade. You're leaving behind the intensity of Silicon Valley, you get more space, and you get a true downtown. You get a more relaxed, polished feel with more of a suburban identity. It feels like you landed somewhere where people chose intentionally, not just for logistics. For other buyers, Dublin feels like a practical upgrade, and you'll likely get a newer home and still have strong options for transportation. Plus, you get a city that's continuing to build itself into something bigger and better. So for some people, that newer, cleaner feeling is really what they're looking for. So neither is universally better on this point. It just depends on what your preferences truly are. So who should pick Pleasanton? You should probably pick Pleasanton if you care a lot about the downtown lifestyle, if you're looking for more charm and less of that master plan community feel, and if you want a city that feels more complete and suburban. Plus, if you like the idea of dining, events, and community identity being part of your weekly life, and you're willing to trade a little bit of the commute for that, Pleasanton is the winner. On the other hand, you should probably lean towards Dublin if you're prioritizing newer housing and still looking for a lot of growth and vibrancy. If you want stronger access to BART and more commute patterns, and if you like the idea of buying into a city that's continuing to evolve, and you care more about the future than about historic charm, Dublin's the choice for you. So if you're thinking about making a move from Silicon Valley and trying to choose between Pleasanton and Dublin, the simplest answer that I can give you is if you're looking for more of a lifestyle upgrade, choose Pleasanton. If you're looking for more convenience, you might really want to consider Dublin. For Silicon Valley buyers, really the decision is, are you optimizing for how life feels when you're not working? Or are you optimizing for how the city functions around your work? If you're trying to figure out which Tri-Valley city actually fits your lifestyle, reach out to us. We'll help you compare not only neighborhoods, but commute patterns, home styles, schools, and the trade-offs that don't show up on Zillow. And be sure to add in the comments below, are you more Dublin or are you more Pleasanton? And let me know why. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like it and subscribe to our channel for more comparisons between cities in the Tri-Valley and throughout the Bay Area. And of course, if you're planning a move in the Tri-Valley or anywhere in the East Bay, I'd be honored to help you through the process of buying or selling your home. I'm Jen with the Jen Collins Group, and we help people make smart, confident moves throughout the East Bay, whether that's next month or a year from now. So if you're starting to think about a move, be sure to download the links in the description below. And when you're ready, I'd love to help you map out your next step. You can call or text me at the number below. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.